Recently, Honda has been showing us all of their newest SUVs. Honda says that 2022 is the year of the SUV, and today I have the smallest of the Honda SUV lineup, the 2023 Honda HR-V. Let's take a deep look at Honda's smallest SUV and see if it's worth considering. So the previous generation HR-V was actually a really tiny SUV, and it was really underpowered. The previous gen HR-V was based on the Honda Fit, which, rest in peace, because Honda killed the Fit because of this thing, the second generation HR-V. Now these HR-Vs are based off the 11th generation Civic, and I actually like the Civic, how it handles, so that initially gave me hopes on this being a good little crossover. Now this is obviously bigger, and this looks weird. This looks like a lot of things. People say Ford Escape. I just think it looks like some sort of fish that's going like, oh, you know? So this HR-V in particular is a 2023 EXL all-wheel drive in Nordic Forest Pearl, and I'm pretty sure this was Honda's launch color for this car. When I take my glasses off, it looks gray, but when I put them on, I can see the kind of greenish blue. Every HR-V will have LED headlights as standard, but Honda interestingly doesn't offer fog lights on their models anymore. I do have to say these headlights are very good at night, and these have auto high beams. Also, the as-tested price of this EXL all-wheel drive is just around 31 grand, which is not bad considering this is fully optioned. And for the HR-V, there's 3 trim levels: LX, Sport, and this EXL. There's no EX trim, which is interesting, but all of them have the same engine, and Honda was boasting that they put more power in this, which they did, but the car is also bigger and heavier. This thing has a 2-liter 4-cylinder. The old ones, if I can find the hood latch, there it is. The old ones had a 1.5 liter, and it made about 130 horsepower. This one does make more power, 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque. The other day I actually calculated a 0 to 60 time. I got 11 seconds on multiple runs. This engine is paired to only a CVT and either front or all-wheel drive, and the all-wheel drive system on this is real-time all-wheel drive. And because I'm a nerd for things with all-wheel drive and learning about how all the all-wheel drive systems work, stay tuned in the coming weeks for a detailed video on this off-road and seeing how real-time all-wheel drive works. But in shorter terms, Honda revised real-time all-wheel drive for the HR-V, but it's still primarily front-wheel drive, but it just can send a little bit more power to the rear axle. Something that did disappoint me is the MPGs. Honda claims these to get 25 in the city, 30 on the highway, and 27 combined. And I've done quite a bit of driving already, and I've only got it up to 23 MPG. I do have a bit of a heavy foot, and I have to use more of it because it's slow. Still, I'd expect a little bit closer to 25, and like, I don't drive that crazy. Now, I mentioned how the second gen HR-V is bigger than the last gen. Honda increased the wheelbase by 1.7 inches. The front track is wider by 2 inches, and the rear track is wider by 2.5 inches. So it's a bit more of a planted and better handling car. But if this was my car, there's 2 things that I'd do. I'd get bigger wheels. These are 17-inch alloy wheels, which don't look bad, but they just look a little bit small for the body. I'd also probably put roof rails on it because I'm a nerd. Something that reminds me of a nice little nostalgic throwback to old CR-Vs and Elements is the all-wheel drive sticker on the window. Just something cool that I noticed, but of course, because this is a subcompact SUV, you don't get a power tailgate. You don't need it. Like, I don't need it. I've never yearned for one in something this size. But behind the second row seats folded down, you get 24 cubic feet of volume. And then when you drop the 60/40 second row seat down, you get up to 55 cubic feet of volume. So that's not too bad. And also, I appreciate that Honda still does this. You get a spare tire underneath. You get a donut. It's better than a can of Fix-A-Flat and a pump. But right above the spare tire, Honda gives you some storage in this little styrofoam piece over here. So this is actually the first time I've gotten into the back seat of this car. Wow, it's not that bad. So I think 3 adults could fit back here in a pinch, but this is really just like for 4 of me. I'm 5'9", about 195 pounds. I can fit my feet under the seat. The driver's seat is in my position of how I sit, and I have good leg room, and headroom is good as well. I'm actually comfortable. The seat, like the quality of the seat is nice and soft. It's perforated leather, but they're not heated or cooled or anything. This little blank piece here that looks like USB ports would be there, but there's no USB ports in the back of this. There's just cup holders in the doors and no armrest, which is interesting. So you could kind of see the cost cutting that they put into like only one map pocket behind the passenger seat. I just find it interesting, but they did put LED lights in the interior. Now, because you know that I'm itching to drive this car, let's get into the front seat. I do like that new Hondas kind of have a little intro, in the screen, but let's turn it on. Honda's been doing a good job with their interiors. Even the door chime sounds upmarket because the material of the seats is very soft, very nice, in a very comfy, cushy way. There's faux stitching that's gray, and then they're perforated. They're also heated but not cooled. This is also as low as the seat goes, and I'm actually really comfortable. I have a nice grip of this wheel. It's a 3-spoke leather-wrapped wheel. Feels very nice to the hand. The horn. I've driven this car in traffic. It's not a good horn to be like, But the wheel itself feels nice, and the controls are nice and simple. On the right side are a bunch of cruise control settings. On the left side are audio controls and some controls for the gauges. Now, since I've mentioned those, 2/3 of the gauges on these are digital, and you can scroll through all different types of information settings. I usually just leave it on the range and mileage, but you can also look at all-wheel drive torque distribution, which I'm going to use tomorrow because that's when I'm going to take it off-road. But everything else, all the materials on the dash, feels good. Like everything that you'd normally touch feels good. Now, looking at this center display, because this is an EXL, you have a 9-inch display, which Honda's been using in their most recent products, and I like this more modern version of Honda Link. There's also wireless and wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice to use. I just like plugging my phone in because it charges it, but I really like this screen. There's also Qi wireless charging, and this is the USB port that you plug in for CarPlay or Android Auto. But right above that, you have dual zone climate control, and like I said, the driver and passenger side seats are heated. I also like how Honda carried this over in the new CR-V and the new HR-V, like this one, this flowing vent. It just looks cool, and every time someone gets into this car, that's usually the first thing that they mention. They're like, wow, because it kind of looks like a luxury car. There's also 2 big cup holders, and then there's a lot of storage. There's a little compartment underneath the drive mode select. Now, actually, let me talk about that quickly. There's 3 drive modes: normal, eco, and snow. Snow mode is new on this and also on the CR-V. And I find it really convenient that Honda put a USB port on the passenger side of this little tunnel and the driver's side, so both people can, plug in as much as they want. The armrest is nice and soft as well, and it also has stitching on it. And if you open it up, there's no USB ports in there, which is okay because of the 3 here. And of course, this one has a sunroof, but no garage home link, but it does have an auto-dimming rearview mirror. Also, when you put the car into reverse, you have a backup camera, which Honda backup cameras are pretty good. Quality is good. You have 3 views. You have a wide view, a normal view, and a top-down view. You also have rear cross traffic alert, and this one also has parking sensors. This car shocked me. It shocked me, and I'm gonna show you what I mean by how it shocked me. I'm gonna get on the gas. That's how it shocked me, because it's so damn slow. I mean, I know most people that drive HRVs will not be flooring it, but the thing is, at least how I drive, I have needed to actually floor the gas, and I've thought, oh, that's definitely not floored. So I'm now in sport mode. We're gonna turn around. This has a decent turning radius, but it's so slow. It is so slow, and it's very loud. And I heard the reason why they didn't put the 1.5 in the Civic, or the 1.5 turbo from the Civic in this, is because of cost. And honestly, I think because of this, like, once it builds up speed, it's not as abysmal as it is when you're just like flooring it, but it's still slow. The brakes are good, and handling is a strong suit of this car. Since this has a longer wheelbase and 4-corner independent suspension, it rides very smooth and it feels solid. It has a feeling of, I guess I'd say density, but just it feels premium. The steering is also pretty light and effortless, which is something I appreciate, you know, for something as a daily driver. You don't want it to be something that you have to keep thinking about. And also the engine isn't as loud when you're driving this not wide open throttle. Like, it still doesn't sound that appetizing, but it's not too bad. And when you're just, you know, like, I mean, in normal traffic situations, I feel like the power is probably more than adequate for an NPC. But for me, it's just a little bit too lethargic. Like here. That's also something that, if you notice, when you're not flooring it, it just acts like a normal CVT. And Honda CVTs are actually pretty decent because they don't feel rubber bandy. It just except that like when you floor it and it's like, you know. But other than that, it's not bad. And then we're gonna punch it. That's floored. You can, and we can see the passing power. It sounds like like once it gets up to speed, it's quick, but well, not quick. It's okay. It just like it has the momentum to carry it, you know, at the speed that it's going at. But this is not a fast car. This is a slow car. Let's do another one. Or half throttle. Uphill. Yeah, like if you're not flooring it and if you're not in a situation where you need all the power, and it seems like the CVT that's the cause of it not giving me all the beans at once. It kind of like winds up and then it starts to build power at like 3,500 RPM. Honda has really refined this car, especially compared to the last gen HRV, because I did not like the last gen HRV, and that was one of the slowest cars on the road. And now this one still feels like that. Like seriously, the only issue that I have with this car is the engine. If this had a more powerful engine, and even it still had a CVT, I would like it more, because pretty much everything in this competition has a CVT. And if it's not a CVT, it's a dual clutch that isn't as reliable. I haven't driven the HRV until this week, and thank you Lynn and Chris at Honda for loaning me this HRV for a whole week to show to everyone. But it's an interesting car in the fact that it isn't. As an all-wheel drive, four-cylinder daily driver that's small, easy to park, easy to drive, and comfortable, it's not a bad little car. But honestly, I would probably choose a Crosstrek over this just because of the added off-road capability. But if it wasn't for that, I'd probably choose one of these. I'd love to see Honda either do the 1.5 liter turbo in this car because there's so much room in the engine bay, but so that also makes me think that they're thinking about doing a hybrid version of this HRV in the future. But anything that would give this more power and a little bit better fuel efficiency, I think this would be a good selling car. But remember to stay tuned for the off-road review of this car. I also have the 2023 Honda CR-V video coming out September 19th. And then next month in October, I'm seeing, I mean, it's kind of obvious, so I can't lie. I'm seeing the next-gen Honda Pilot, and I will show you, and I'll be one of the many first few people to show you. So I'm excited about that. It's a Honda full year. Enough rambling. I'll talk to you in the next video. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, peeps.